Welcome to the Writer Reads Flash Fiction. Today's reading is day 31 of another 365 days of flash fiction. It's titled Vertigo. The road curved down the western side of the valley, frighteningly steep, absurdly narrow, and fraught with curves. Pelican jogged down the gravel, watching his footing and keeping an eye on the path ahead. He didn't look down, just imagined a broad rolling plain and wished he had blinkers. Vertigo was a killer. Right now, fear was his friend. Broad and flat, broad and flat, broad and flat, he chanted as he jogged, straining his ears for the sound of pursuit behind. Broad and flat. They would come for him. They had his scent. He'd been wrong. Sometimes the trolls did return to their lair before dawn. Broad and flat, he said, steadying the sling across his chest. He'd not been able to save the mother, but she'd hidden the child in a wooden trunk, and he'd heard it wailing when he'd pursued their trail. It had been lucky the beast had been away. He'd lifted it out and fled, hearing the first roar of outrage before he'd made half a mile. The idea they would not pursue him had been destroyed with the next roar, closer and clearly angry. The valley road had been his only hope, and he was taking it as fast as he dared. Even so, he heard rocks bounce and skitter over the road's edge from above and behind. Broad and flat, he murmured, glad the rhythm of his steps had rocked the babe to sleep. The sky lightened, making it easier to keep his footing, making it harder to ignore the steep slope scant feet to his left. He turned his head, even though it was hard to run, judging the path by the curve of the hill rising to his right. It would be impossible once the world began to sway. Vertigo. Broad and flat. Heavy footsteps crunched on the gravel, and Pelican increased the pace. He raised a hand to the side of his face that might catch a glimpse of the view, the magnificent, deadly view, blinkering himself as he hugged the baby tighter to his chest. Behind him came a triumphant roar. "Lady of Stars, preserve us," he prayed. "Lady of the Stars." A thin gleam of colour lit the rock wall to his right, and the troll roared again. This time it was not in triumph, but in pain. Pelican heard himself sob and tried to keep his legs moving. Rock clattered behind him. Lady of Stars. The light brightened. The clatter became a rumble, accompanied by a shriek, followed by the rush of wings and sudden alarm calls as a flock of birds erupted from the valley wall. It was a mistake to look back. Pelican caught sight of the magnificent panorama of the valley floor, hundreds of feet below, and the world wobbled. He stumbled, throwing himself flat back against the side of the valley that rose away from the road. The world tilted, and he let himself slide to the ground, making sure he sat, back to the wall, butt on the road, eyes firmly closed, the baby held firmly in his arms. Which is how the first patrol found him, as they came to investigate the roars they'd heard just before sunrise. If you enjoyed this reading, please hit like. If you'd like to hear more, please hit subscribe, and I'll check you later. Take care out there.